Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Essay Show. My name is Shomakin Loton. I'll be your host and moderator for today. It's so nice to have you all out here. And today we're going to be discussing how to develop successful job search strategies. So if you're watching me right now and you can hear my voice, I would like you to go ahead in the comment box, leave me your name and your location where you're watching from, and then I'll give you a shout out. After that, I'll introduce our guest and we're going to get started. So I see Oluwatosin Arodudu. She says she's glad to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in today. And if you've not shared this video, go ahead and share with your friends. Let us have more people join us today. All right, so go ahead and share with your friends and let's have more people join us today. Great. So I'm going to introduce our guest. I am going to share a little bit about her so that you know that we have a professional on the hot seat today and she's ready to share some tips with us. Her name is Lynne Williams and she's currently going through a doctoral program in education. She is the executive director of Great Careers Group. This group is a non-profit organization that provides career education and networking connections for job seekers that are into career transition, including veterans, and also for the employed and self-employed for career management. Lynne is also the owner of Around the Clock Executive Helper, a writer of resumes and LinkedIn profiles. I told you she's a LinkedIn guru, and if you need help with your resume, she's definitely the person to reach out to. She's worked with a lot of networking organizations, and she's an expert in the applicant tracking system. She's currently working on writing a doctoral dissertation, and she's a contributing author to a book titled Find Your Fit, a practical guide to landing the job you love. Wouldn't it be nice, like, if you have a job you love, and wouldn't it be nice if you got free tips from an expert? So at this point, I would say, join me in welcoming Lynne Williams. Make sure you're clapping. I need to hear your clap. Even though this is the internet, I want to hear your clap. All right. So join me in welcoming Lynne Williams on the Essay Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today. It is a delight and an absolute pleasure to have you on board. I would like to give a shout out to some of our audience today, and I see Omolola. Yes, that's Omolola from Ibadan City. Wow. All right. Oluwatosin Arodudu from Dublin, Lola De, Lawal from Abeokuta. Thank you everyone for tuning in. And if you have not invited your friends, we also have Elizabeth from Abeokuta. So we have people watching you from Nigeria, Dublin, and also the USA, because I see Olayemi Akinlotan. All right, so we're going to get started. Like I said, welcome on board. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Tell us what you do and where you're from.
I am from King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, which
Yeah,
is in the
shout out to
suburbs of Philly. And I'm really near the Valley Forge National Historical Park.
yes.
And that is where George Washington had his encampment in 1776.
And who is George Washington?
The first president of the United States.
Okay.
So what do I do? Well, I basically wear 3 hats right now.
Okay.
Number 1 is I am working on my doctoral dissertation.
Awesome.
Hat number 2, I write resumes and LinkedIn profiles. And hat number 3, I'm the executive director of a nonprofit that provides career education and networking.
Nice to meet you. So we live very close to each other. Our houses are just like 3 minutes away from each other. So when next I go to Giant, I'll be sure to give you a call like, oh, Lynn, I'm in Giant. All right. So you mentioned the Valley Forge National Park. And I feel like that's an interesting fact that you just stated. Do you have any link or connection with George Washington, or why was that important for you to mention that?
Well, it's just a beautiful park. And when I was graduating from high school, that was local to here, President Ford came out and declared it a national historical park instead of just, a state park. And we had Conestoga wagons coming in from across the country. And my dad was the president of the Valley Forge Riders and Drivers Association. So he actually was on a horse for about 16 hours coming in from another city, leading these Conestoga wagons into the Valley Forge Park.
Wow, I feel like I'm in history class. So your dad was on the horse for 16 hours. Were there no cars back then, or?
I'm sorry, were there no what?
No cars, no vehicles back
no.
then?
This was in 1976.
Okay.
So this was like a reenactment of the Conestoga wagons coming in to celebrate, 200 years later.
Wow. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, that's great. So what was growing up like for you? What was your childhood like? I know you mentioned your dad went all the way to Valley Forge Park. So could you please, take us back in time and tell us a little bit about your childhood?
Well, there are some people that are watching now who know me professionally, but they don't really know anything about my background. So okay. This might reveal a little bit of dirty laundry and some secrets.
We're keeping it real.
Yeah, people don't even know about me. So my mother was 21 and a senior in college. And she told her family after she found out she was pregnant that she wanted to get married. And she got married very quickly in 2 months.
Okay.
So the truth came out in the Catholic family that even though she was going to use the excuse that I was going to be born prematurely, I really was born prematurely. So instead of coming 7 months after her wedding, I came 5 months.
5 months after. Yeah. So, and a full baby. You were a full baby, full term.
Yeah. So no, I was 7
months.
A 7-month baby. I was a premature baby. And so the truth came out that she was
pregnant before she got married.
Yeah.
And that was highly unacceptable back then.
Right. And then in the late 50s and early 60s, the RH factor hadn't been figured out yet. So my mom had a second child, my brother David, and sadly, he was what was called then profoundly mentally retarded. We don't use that term anymore. It's very disrespectful. So he was profoundly mentally handicapped. And he became a ward of the state of Michigan. And sadly, he died when when he was 19 years old, and I was a student in France. Now, yes, I was a student in France. I was finishing up my my undergraduate business administration degree in England after the University of Delaware, and then I finished up my French major in France.
Can you speak French?
Oui, je parle français. J'ai commencé à étudier la langue quand j'avais...
Bonjour, madame.
There you go. So I'm a little rusty at it now because I don't have a chance to speak very often.
And practice.
Yeah. But when I was about 3 years old, I remember vividly hearing my parents argue. Or maybe it was 2 years old. I was very, very young.
You remember things that happened when you were 2?
Yes, I remember them screaming at each other, sadly. And they wound up getting divorced. And so that's why my brother went in to become a ward of the state of Michigan, because my mother was a music teacher.
Okay.
So when she was 24, she was diagnosed with a melanoma tumor, cancer, and she was given 6 months to live. Well, that was actually the first time out of 3 times that she had cancer. She actually was, a medical miracle, so to speak, because she continued living till she was 78, and then diabetes got her. But when I was 9, she had met a man from New Jersey, and she married him. And so that's who I call my dad. It's not my biological father. It's my stepfather. And then we moved from New Jersey to Pennsylvania. And I missed my grandparents because my grandparents were both in Michigan. My biological father's parents were French Canadian ancestry, and my maternal grandparents were Polish. So my grandfather immigrated here from Warsaw when he was 4 years old. And I never learned to speak Polish, but I was called Lynne Marie.
Lynne Marie.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting story. And, it's a little bittersweet, but I guess that's how life is. Wow. So you had mentioned to me that you're related to 2 presidents and there were only 2 of the first 12 presidents that never had slaves. I know we're talking a little bit about history. I want to, learn more about who you are before we talked about LinkedIn and job strategies.
So a few years ago, my daughter bought me, the ancestry.com kit, and I, sent my spit in and it got analyzed. And I found out that I actually have a little bit of Africa in me. And I think it's
Africa.
Yeah.
Really?
Somewhere along the line in my heritage. Yeah. So I don't remember. I didn't look at my ancestry recently, but yeah, I do have some ancestry from Africa. But anyway, I found out that somewhere along the line on my biological father's side, that I am a descendant of Abigail Adams, who is the wife of John Adams, the 2nd president of the United States. Okay. And then they had John Quincy Adams, who was the 6th president out of the United States. And when I did a little research on this, I found out that they were the only 2 presidents out of the first 12 presidents that did not have slaves.
And how did that make you feel?
It made me feel wonderful. I believe, we should have respect for everyone, no matter who you are, what your beliefs in, all that good stuff. And that, social justice, we all need to have respect for one another. If you think about, I don't know if you've ever heard of Robert Fulghum's poem, All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten.
Yes,
I think we
I've
need to
heard of
go
that.
back to those roots. It's like, we're all innocent little 5-year-olds going into
Yes,
kindergarten. And why can't we just treat each other all like
that
that
way.
now?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right, so let's move on from that and talk a little bit about a fire incident that happened to you in 2005. And that's about 16 years ago, where you lost
Wow.
everything in that fire. How did you receive the news, and how were you able to get back on your feet? Because losing everything in a fire is a lot.
Well, it was Father's Day '05, and my older daughter and I had gone down to Washington, D.C. area. And as a
Okay.
single parent, I didn't have a lot of money. So anything that I could do for, camping or go for those timeshare things where you could, check it out for free,
Mhm.
I took advantage of that. So my older daughter and I went to the timeshare in Washington, D.C. My youngest daughter did not want to go with us, so she stayed across the street with some
Wow.
neighbors.
Thank
So
God you
at
didn't leave her at home.
yeah, no, I wouldn't leave her at home, by
Yeah.
herself because she was too young.
Okay.
So at 5 o'clock in the morning, I got a call from my mom, and she was very calm. And she says, "Lynn, you need to drive home. You had
Hmm.
a little fire in your house. You need to pack your bags and drive home."
Okay.
So, my daughter and I got in the car, packed our bags, and we started driving home. We had a 3-hour drive home from Washington, D.C. We
Mm-hmm.
were screaming and crying at different times the entire way home. So when it got to be about 15 minutes from home, my mom told me, check in when you're real close to home. So I
Mm-hmm.
called her and I said, okay, I'm about 15 minutes away. She says, "Lynn, you need to prepare. You've
Hmm.
lost everything in your life."
Wow.
I had 3 cats, a hermit crab, and a hamster uh,
Hmm.
that we lost. But I really did lose everything in my life. And so here's
Hmm.
a lesson that I want to pass on to people.
Yes, that's important.
I had replacement value insurance. I did not have replacement value insurance.
What type
I,
of insurance did you have?
I had depreciated value insurance. So
Ooh.
it took me 7 years to dig out of that financial hole. And I was blessed by having volunteered in Girl Scouts, that the local Girl Scouts moms, they had a fire shower for me, and they collected things from around, the community. And I got new stuff and I got used stuff. And I wound up living in a temporary housing situation for almost a
Mhm.
year while our house got put back together.
Wow.
So right after I had sort of got through, my 7 years, of financial instability, I wound
Mhm.
up losing my job, and I didn't have work for 11 and a half months.
Hmm. And how
So
did you survive?
I don't know. I did get some donations, and
Mhm.
I did have a job um, for the 7 years, but I was digging myself out of the financial hole
Hmm.
um, while I was, trying to restabilize my life. And just as I sort of rebalanced, that's when I lost my job.
Wow.
And I was um, unemployed for about 11 and a half months. And for 7.5 months, I didn't even get one interview. And I couldn't understand
Wow.
why. Yeah, I felt, I was well educated. I had a lot of experience, a lot of business acumen. When I was married, my husband and I had a general contracting firm. We did about $5 to $7 million a year. We employed 24 people. So I learned, about starting a business and being an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
But after we had divorced, I decided that, I wanted that W-2 job. I wanted to have, the health insurance benefits and whatnot. So I did finally find that job, but in that 11 and a half months, I learned so much about job search by attending all the meetings, and I learned the importance of networking.
Wow. And you're about to, share from that experience with us today. We're not quite there yet, but I wanted to give a shout out to your daughter. She's here to support her mom. That's Lillian Zimmerman. Hi, Liz. Oh, hi, Lillian. Thank you
That,
for joining
that's
us.
not my daughter, but that's okay.
Oh, you said it's Lee's daughter. Oh. Hi,
Well,
Lillian. I remember that was my guest from last week. So our daughter tuned in. All right. Welcome, Liz. Wow. I'm still trying to catch my breath from that. All right, Lynne, let's move on from that experience of the fire and everything it taught you. Still on challenges, you lost your ex-husband to leukemia. How did that affect you and your daughters? And what word of encouragement would you like to share with anyone that might be dealing with difficult situations like that?
well, I'm going to give a little bit more backstory first. So I
Okay.
actually married a man that had autism. And he was really smart. He skipped 2 elementary grades, and he was from Toronto. So I married a Canadian in 1984. We wound up having 2 girls, and they are dual citizens. And then I wound up filing for divorce in 1993.
Okay.
So the big challenge was that he became an abusive alcoholic, and I was not raised to be a punching bag, physically, emotionally, psychologically, or anything like that. And at the time, I was living in California, and my whole family was 3,000 miles away.
Yeah.
And so the judge had absolutely no idea that I had no place to go dealing with this divorce situation and sharing custody of kids. So I wound up becoming homeless on the weekends because I didn't have the money at the time to pay for a hotel. So I wound up sleeping at the beach in my car in Huntington Beach, California, on
Mhm.
weekends. And then when I moved back to Pennsylvania on like 13 hours notice with my kids, because the appellate court allowed me to move back, I actually wound up being on food stamps and a medical access card. So I've gone from that situation to now working on my doctoral dissertation. But
Hallelujah.
even though my husband and I had a lot of acrimony at the time, we sort of worked ourselves out of that, and we worked on, doing the right thing for our children. And even though he and I were not good together, he was still a good father. He was not like totally tuned into changing diapers and crying when they were little, but he really was a good father as they became older and they could communicate and go on trips and whatnot with him. So my girls were really, terribly sad that they lost their dad. And I had to tell them when they were working at a camp in Canada in 2009. It was July 1st, which is Canada Day. That's like
Okay.
our 4th of July. And I
Mm-hmm.
had to call the lady who was in charge of all the camp activities. And I said, you need to pull them both into the office. I have to tell them their dad has cancer. And that was a really, really hard day for
Thing
me.
to do.
And of course, everybody was crying. And we lost him 27 days later.
Wow, so fast.
Yeah. He took a one-way taxi to the hospital. It was the University of Alberta Hospital in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, because that's where he was working at the time. So he
Okay.
took a one-way taxi there, and he never came back out. But
Hmm.
my girls were with him on the last 4 days of his life.
Mm-hmm.
And when my daughter told him that she got a scholarship from the university that he went to, that she was going to attend, he
Mm-hmm.
did give a thumbs up. But they have a vision in their mind of what he looked like, and he sort of blew up, um, in the last 4 days of his life. And then
Hmm.
when he when they left Edmonton to fly back to their camp, there was somebody who was picking them up at the airport who was trying to get them to stay the night. And they said, no, 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 we need to drive 2.5 hours back to the camp. We need to be back with our friends. So we made a pact that if anything had happened, that nobody would tell them anything while they were driving, so that they wouldn't,
Have an accident or.
have an accident at wee hours of the morning. So
Mm-hmm.
sure enough, at 3:15 in the morning, I got the call with the tears. He had a brain hemorrhage, and
Hmm.
they took him off life support, and he was gone. So it's a really hard thing for kids to go through, to lose their
Yeah.
father.
Hmm.
And as I said, even though we had acrimony between us in the beginning, we sort of worked it out, and we became responsible parents. And anybody that's going through a divorce, do the right thing for your kids, work it out, because the kids are innocent, don't get them, mixed in the middle of the mess.
Hmm. Wow. You've been through a lot, and I truly appreciate the fact that you're willing to be vulnerable and you're willing to share your story, because some people may not be living in the US and they just think, oh, US, everything is just like roses, everything is good. But you sharing your story of, being homeless at some point, losing everything you had to a fire, losing your ex-husband, having to raise the kids, being homeless, getting on food stamps, these are real life issues, and you've been able to make something great out of that. And we're proud of you. We're proud of the work you do in Montgomery County. So it's really nice to have you on board today. All right, so let's move on. I see you volunteering a lot, because I myself, I attend a lot of networking events and I see you volunteering. And I've also been to a lot of conferences where you were one of the speakers. Why are you so passionate about volunteering, and why should others care about volunteering?
Well, when my girls were growing up, I did the volunteering in Girl Scouts and cheerleading. And then once we lost everything to fire, I wanted to contribute to the fire company, because it was devastating. It's, when I think about my loss in the fire, I had a whole community around me. But if I put myself into perspective with other people in other parts
Mhm.
of the world that are
Yeah.
experiencing tsunamis, or,
Mhm.
wars or anything like that, I was
Yes.
very blessed to be the one and only person, and not a whole community or
Community.
state. So
Okay.
it's all in the matter of perspective. So even though I may not have money because of, all the challenges that I've been through, I have time and talent, and I believe in helping humanity.
Hmm.
So I'm not a refugee. I'm not carrying a kid on my back wearing
So
sandals.
despite all your challenges, you still have a lot of things to be thankful for.
Absolutely. And I'm not in a really bad situation, where I have to sleep in a tent and I don't know where my next meal's coming from.
Coming
So
from.
I feel very blessed. I may not have a lot, but I do have time and talent to help others. And I think everybody should volunteer. I was really inspired in 2013 by a book called The Go Giver,
The
written
Go
by
Giver.
Go Giver.
And
Yeah.
who is the author?
Bob Berg.
Okay.
Yeah,
Bob Berg.
it really hit me, that I wanted to volunteer, and that's why I have a volunteer-run nonprofit, and we have the most amazing people that volunteer in our organization and pay it forward to help others. So
Wow.
we try to help job seekers. So let's think about this. A lot of people have money that they give to charitable organization for pets and vets and kids. They don't give to job seeker organizations. But when you stop and think about it, it's the adult that needs the income to take care of the kids, to pay for the pets, to donate to the vets. So it's like on an airplane where you have to put your mask on the adult first. And if you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you've got those physiological needs. Everybody's got to have food and water, and then you move up the pyramid to all these other needs. So I believe in not being a food pantry and handing out people food. Teach them the career education so that they have the knowledge about job seeking, to land the job, to earn the paycheck,
and then buy the food
and buy their own food. So it's teach the man and woman to fish.
Yes, absolutely. And this is an interesting conversation because some people believe that if I teach you how to fish, then you wouldn't have to come to me next time. So they want people to be subservient to them. So they keep giving people food. And then the other part is we have people that are so lazy, they don't want to work. All they want is hand-me-downs. And when you try to teach them, it's not as appealing as when you give them food. So it's, I don't know how to say this, but it's an intertwined problem. And I am of the school of thought that we teach people how to fish so that they can stand up for themselves and be independent. We are having a program today. We're teaching people, right? Job search strategies. Hell no. But if it was a party, this room will be filled with people. And, people just love to complain about different things going on in their lives. All right. At this point, I want us to take a short break. And then when we come back from that short break, you'll be sharing practical tips. You promise to keep it practical, right? Practical tips that people can use, maybe to enhance their LinkedIn profile, to write their resumes, and to land that dream job. So we'll be back. Stay tuned, everyone. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back from that short break. If you are just joining us, this is the SA show. My name is Seun Akinloton. I'm your moderator and host for today. Our guest on the show today is Lynne Williams, and we're discussing how to develop successful job strategies. In the first half of the session, we talked about her life history, the things that happened to her when she was growing up, how she lost everything in a fire, how she bounced back. And right now, we're about to dive into the part that you've been waiting for. How do you develop LinkedIn profiles that attract recruiters? How do you write your resume? And how do you develop successful job strategies? So, Lynne, welcome back from that short break. You are an expert when it comes to resumes for applicant tracking system and LinkedIn profile. In your opinion, what do you think employers look out for when they're searching for that right candidate?
Well, there are some jobs that obviously need technical expertise.
Okay.
And so people are hired because of their expertise. And
Mm-hmm.
there's other jobs where people can be taught things,
Yeah.
and employers are looking for a culture fit. They want those soft skills. They want communication skills, collaboration skills, interpersonal skills.
Okay.
You've got to have hard skills, for some jobs, but
Okay.
it's important to have those soft skills.
Okay. So, in your opinion, do you think the soft skills count more than the hard skills? Because, of course, any job you get, you're going to learn on the job anyway.
I'm going to give you the appropriate answer. It's called it depends.
It depends.
Yes. So,
All right.
it depends on the job.
Okay.
There's all different types of jobs, and there are some jobs where people are just working at their desk on the computer versus jobs that are very public facing, and you have to do the customer service and
Yes.
client facing things.
Mhm.
So that's why I say it depends.
Okay.
There's many jobs that obviously don't require any training or education, and people can be taught, on the job
Okay.
learning experience. But there's other jobs which do require, technology skills, or the healthcare industry. You've got to know regulatory compliance, for certain things. So it all depends on the job.
All right. So I know that a lot of people talk about head hunting on LinkedIn. So head hunting is a case whereby an employer actually sees your profile, they love what you have on your profile, and then they reach out to you for, they say, oh, would love to have you at our organization. So what can people do to increase their chances of being head hunted rather than applying for the job?
Okay. So, and then we'll talk about resumes after, I guess.
Yes.
So, as far as LinkedIn is concerned, you want to optimize your profile.
What do you mean
And,
by that?
okay. So, I believe that in order to be found, you have to have the right keywords. So,
Keywords.
yeah.
Okay.
If,
I wanted to break it down to
Mhm.
someone that is not very familiar with how LinkedIn works, because I've heard a lot of testimonies about people being headhunted on LinkedIn. And I know that you are the expert. That's why I brought you here today so that people can learn. Now, when you talk about keywords, what exactly do you mean?
Okay. So, if you were to establish a LinkedIn profile, okay,
Okay.
you have to first have, first name, last name, email, password. That gets you on the platform. So
Okay.
the first step is for you to invite 30 people minimum so that you exist as a real person on LinkedIn. Your
Okay.
next goal, believe it or not, is to get to 500 people. Apparently, 500 is a magic number of LinkedIn connections so that the algorithm will help you rather than hinder you. So if you
Oh,
just go,
wow. I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, if you go to
I have
Google,
500 connections on LinkedIn.
yeah, if you go to Google and you type in, why do I need 500 LinkedIn connections? There are thousands of articles there.
Wow.
So hopefully you have worked on optimizing and building your profile as you are inviting those people to connect with you. So
Okay.
here are some things that you need to do.
Okay.
So the
Take
first
note.
thing is you put your first name in the first name block and your last name in your last name block. A lot of
Okay.
times people might put phone numbers or other things in there. LinkedIn is a database. So you have
Okay.
to treat it as a field in the database. And a
Okay.
lot of people think, oh, I could just fill in all these different fields and, with basic information. But there are some strategies where you can, get a more optimized with keywords in the right places. So
Okay.
there's several different ways that you can go about looking up keywords.
Okay.
Now, if you go to my nonprofit website,
And what's the website?
which is Great Careers with an S, PHL, just like the Philadelphia Airport.org, not .com, .org. We're a nonprofit. And in the
Okay.
top right, you're going to find a little search bar. Type in
Okay.
the word keywords. It is one word. Keywords is just one word, not two words.
Okay.
You'll find a couple articles that I wrote there on ways that you can come up with keywords. But I'm
Okay.
just going to explain one way, which is very simple. If you
Okay.
click on the Jobs tab and you were to type in a word or a title on the left. So, for example, my typical example is project manager. And then
Okay.
you tab over to your metropolitan city area. So I would be Greater Philadelphia area. So
Okay.
if I look at the top left, it will tell me how many jobs are open. Now, if
Yeah.
I were to change that to project management, then I'd click on the search again, and it would tell me that there are even more jobs available. So if you think about your metropolitan area, you not only want to use the words where people are most looking for those jobs, but again, when we talked about, the technical aspects of certain jobs, you also want keywords that are very niche-y for your particular industry. So it's
Industry.
an art and a science. It's a balance between having the words that will help you be findable, as well as having those niche expertise words.
Okay. So I want to re-explain what you just said in my own words, just for the purpose of some people that may not really understand what keywords mean. So keywords basically mean that those specific words in your industry that is important to the recruiter or to the employer, you want those words on your own profile when you're describing either your bio or maybe the things that you've done. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And then I think just from the explanation you gave, I think one other way that people can also enhance their profile might be to actually click on that job and then read through the job description, look for those keywords that the employers keep repeating. Of course, like if you read maybe like 10 different job descriptions of the same type of job, you would begin to notice a trend in
Yes.
what the employers are looking for.
Yes.
And this is just from the top of my head. I'm just, kind of
Right.
imagining it.
So what I have found is that LinkedIn mirrors Google on the keywords. So if
Okay.
you were to go on Google Trends, and how you do that is you type in trends.google.com or whatever the initials are for your country after that. And then you would type in project manager, and then you want to compare it to project management. And then we've had kind of a weird year this past year, right? So maybe you look at the last 90 days and then you find your major metropolitan city area and see if the same thing is being reflected on Google Trends with that keyword.
With that word, okay.
Now, if you are in finance, let's say you are grappling between these different synonyms. So one is budget, one is budgets, and one is budgeting. So in your keyword search in LinkedIn, you're going to find that probably budget or budgets is the main word that has more hits than budgeting. But what happens if budgeting is used in your resume? So
Okay.
what you need to do is when you have your list of, I do alphabetized keywords called core competencies. So I would just add an ing to the word budget on my base resume, as well as customize other keywords in. And I want to do a custom resume for each and every job that I apply to. So
Ooh, that's
base
hard.
resume, it actually, it is not if you have the right format of resume. So
Okay.
your resume, basically, it's the top half of the first page that is essential because research says 6 to 15 seconds that human eyes look at somebody's resume.
Okay.
You have to pack that top half with a headline, just like you would in LinkedIn. A lot of people waste a line and they put the word profile summary. Well, my goodness, why don't you tell people what you want to be when you grow up? Either are you in HR? Are you in marketing? Are you in IT? Are you in finance? Put that headline just like you would in a LinkedIn profile at the top of your resume. Then share your value proposition. Then put your core competencies, skills in alphabetical order. And then when you do a text analyzation of the job description, you can easily flip out that budget word for budgeting. And let me give you an example. If you look up on LinkedIn, which is the best form of the word team, okay, it may be one thing, but in a job description, it may be another. So you have team player, team manager, team management, team leader, team leadership, team player, cross-functional teams. So you need to look all these up in LinkedIn and quantify them. I put them in a spreadsheet with the word and then the number of jobs in that metropolitan area for that client so that we can now make data-driven decision making. It is an art and a science between the right keywords for LinkedIn, the right keywords for the job description on the base or on the base resume, and then how do you flip that out when you use different software tools to analyze the keywords in job descriptions. But there are those trends, like you mentioned. So I would absolutely go look up, at least a dozen or, maybe 20 of your most important keywords and see how they're trending on Google. So again, trends.google.com. And it's an art and a science, mashing all this stuff together.
Wow. Wow, you just ran me through this expert course in LinkedIn resume writing, and someone says she's learning. So this is great.
So here's a little bit more. So, we talked a little bit about my background in the applicant tracking system. So in 2016, in October, a book was published called Find Your Fit, A Practical Guide to Landing the Job You Love. And that was 2 years after I was asked to write an article for the Association of Talent Development on the applicant tracking system.
Okay.
So in 2016, the ATD, Association of Talent Development, they put 16 career coaches together to write 16 chapters. And then the foreword was written by Dick Bowles, the very famous Dick Bowles, who wrote What Color's Your Parachute? He wrote that for almost 50 years before he passed away in 2017.
Okay.
So the chapter was really on applying for jobs, but the main focus on the chapter was on how do you beat the applicant tracking system. And they would ask me, can you submit a resume? Can you, excuse me, submit a cover letter, a T-style cover letter, value proposition letter? So I submitted all that, but the basic premise is, how do you get through to these applicant tracking systems? Now, it's important for people to know that there are over 200 applicant tracking systems. And with that, you can't possibly know everything. So the best thing is just generalized information. Do not go in with a highly formatted resume. You can't have the borders, the shading, the lines going across, the columns, the tables, the images. You can't put that for the bots to read. So, you have a basically stripped down resume, Arial 12-point font with those black
Arial 12.5, you said?
Yeah, with solid
Wow.
black bullet points. That's it. Your 2-page resume may wind up being a 3 or 4-page resume. That's what you submit to the bots to read so that it is readable. And you have to put your resume company name in a certain order. So let me give you that.
Yes.
Company name,
comma,
city, comma, 2-digit or 2-character state if you're in the United States. Tab over, put the dates in, and underneath you put the job title, and then you put your bullet point accomplishments. Now, the applicant tracking systems will be able to extract that information.
Wow.
So when it gets to the end of the online application, it might say, do you want to attach a resume?
Mm-hmm.
So there's 2 words you need to know: upload and attach. When you see upload and it's a big company, that's a pretty good indication that that is an applicant tracking system. And then when you get to the end, you can attach your, what I call a pretty resume instead of your deconstructed resume. Now, I know, this particular session will be on YouTube, but I do applicant tracking system workshops an awful lot. And the next one coming up is on April 20th at the New York Public Library, and it is absolutely free, but it is on Google Meet. So you need to log on Chrome, to make sure that it works the best.
Did you send that to me? Is that one of the links you sent to me?
So I sent you 3 links. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I saw
those in the chat. So one of them is I'm asking people, please feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. I can't connect to everybody first level.
We have to do something. There was an event that I attended, and you had everyone bring out their cell phones to connect. We have to be in the same location.
Yes, and we can't do that anymore. They've taken away that feature.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because we're all, not meeting in person now because of COVID. But yeah, find nearby. That was what it was called.
Find nearby. That was really cool.
So the second link I sent you after my LinkedIn URL is greatcareersphl.org/events. So you'll see all of our upcoming events. And, if you take note of, when I'm speaking, that you can learn a lot more. And then I also put in a deck that I did, and it is how to develop successful job search strategies. So I know you don't have the verbal explanation that goes along with that, but at least you have the link to the deck, which is a Google slide deck. And there are links in there that'll be further learning for people, and they can read the articles.
Okay, cool. That's great. Now, I do have a question. I'm not sure if you have any question. If you're watching us, if you have any questions for Lynne, please leave your questions in the comment box and I'll be taking them shortly. But I do have a question. So now you're saying that we shouldn't put in our highly formatted resume and it should be 12.5. My resume is not even 12.5 to start with because my resume is actually like long. So what I did was I reduced the font size. And I think I have 11 on my resume. So do you think that is too small? I need to increase it to 12.5. And then I need to follow up with the formats that you just explained because I want to be headhunted on LinkedIn.
Okay. So again, I believe you should have 2 resumes. So pretty resume, I typically use Calibri 11-point font, and I do use shading, and I do use columns and whatnot. But you have to take that resume and deconstruct it to basically Arial 12-point font, boring black and white, just for the bots. So I call that a deconstructed resume. So that's when you see the word upload, you upload that resume. And then when you get to the end, you upload or you attach your pretty resume. Or if you're dealing with humans, when somebody says, oh, email me your resume, then you do your pretty resume. The bot resume is only for, these ATS systems. Let's see, what else can I tell you?
Okay, so could you please share more tips on resume writing?
Yeah. So some people, still use the word objective on a resume. That hasn't been used for over a decade. So you're not writing an objective. It's not about you. It's about the employer. So it's not that, I'm looking for a job because I like or I'm passionate about blah, blah, blah. You are basically have to turn it around so that it's what pain points do you solve? What problems do you solve for a potential employer? Do you have a track record of accomplishments? Are those transferable to the new employer? Can you, streamline processes or something like that? And the other thing is some people still put references available upon request. Mm-hmm. That is no longer done on a resume either.
So what should you write on it?
You don't write anything like that on the resume.
So you don't need to write the references on the resume as well?
No, you don't write that on a resume. If you are going through an interview and you are asked for references, then you submit a separate reference list at the time. But you don't need to tell people references are available upon request. They should know that. That's like general information. Mm-hmm. Let's see, what else? On your resume, you definitely need to put those keywords, but make sure that you do look them up and you're using the right form of the keywords after you analyze the keywords in a job description. And if you want a free tool to analyze keywords for a job description, mm-hmm. I love wordart.com. So
can you say that again, please?
Wordart.com. So if you go to thegreatcareersphl.org and you look up word cloud, then you'll find an article in there on WordArt and many other word cloud generators. But I like WordArt because it not only gives you a visual of the keywords, but it also gives you a numerical quantity. Wow. And I will be teaching how to use this in the applicant tracking system workshop that I do. I also teach 3 hours of LinkedIn every single month, and it happens to be next Saturday. It is absolutely free. It's 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
And how do people connect with that?
Again, on that our website, on our events page, you'll see the link.
GreatCareersPHL.org /events. I put it in the comments. So, GreatCareersPHL.org.
Yep. So you'll see a 3-hour workshop. I've actually been doing that one since 2013, every single month since 2013.
And you do a great job at it.
Yeah. So it's 9 hours worth of LinkedIn training, but we can only have 100 people on the Zoom at a time. So if you are
first come, first serve,
you got to wait till the next 3 months that it's available. But even with the applicant tracking system, people have to network their way to their next job. That's the most important thing I want to put across today. Make networking a habit. Keep going out to learn. Knowledge is power. So whether, you go to these career workshops or you expand your education, no matter where you are in your life, you have choices to make. So make choices that are going to be positive and benefit you.
Wow. So no matter where you are in your life, you have choices to make. I have always believed in the power of networking. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like official networking events. Anywhere you are, make sure that you're connecting with people, because that next level you're looking forward to getting, you need someone to help you get there. Because our time is fast spent. We only have 1 more minute, and I
Okay.
still have a couple of questions. So
Sure.
I'm going to skip some of the questions, but I really want you to answer this. What word of advice would you like to share with anyone who is struggling to land their dream job?
Oh, make sure you're not a curmudgeon. Always be optimistic, be positive, and bring your best self. I mean, if you're having a bad day, keep that to yourself. Yell at yourself in the mirror. But when you are around networking with other people, you want to show your best self, because people don't want to hang around with, Debbie
Moody,
Downers and negative
negative people.
Nathans and all that. So always be positive, and just remember, each no is one step closer to a yes.
Each no is one step closer to a yes. Wow. Looking at all you've been through in the last 30 or more years, what is one thing you think you would have done differently knowing what you know today?
Mm, that's a hard one. I don't think I would have gotten married quite as young as I did. I got married at 26, and I wish I would have waited till over 30.
And
Um,
why is that?
my mom always told me people evolve, and the man that I would marry, at 20 is different than 30 and 40 and 50 and 60. And that's very true. So whether it's, whatever partner you choose, you, you know, take the time and choose that right partner to be with, because you do evolve, and just don't make that decision too young, because you change too.
Wow. Thank you very, very much. What else would you like to say?
On our website, greatcareersphl.org, go to the contact us page, and you will see a whole bunch of different links to connect to our social media and newsletter, as well as a Google Doc. On the Google Doc, you will see on page about 7 or 8 a whole bunch of networking groups that are either local in the greater Philadelphia area or remote, available around the country or whatever. So that is another good resource. You got to network, got to make networking a habit.
You got to network. You have to make networking a habit, because the more people see you, the more they like you, the more they trust you, and the more they want you to, get access to whatever it is you're looking for. Thank you so much. And at this point, we've come to the end of the essay show today. I know that we're 2 minutes over our schedule, but I wanted to give you, my gratitude. I'm grateful. Thank you for accepting to do this with me today. I know that everyone enjoyed it. And until next time, I'll say be intentional, be exceptional, and be on point. So I'll see you later.